We are Gathering of the Geeks, podcast and YouTube show built around the things we as geeks all love. Hashtag we gather on Sundays. Thank you for checking out the one about the streaming wars. I'm one of your hosts, Emmet, and I'm joined by the Ted Lasso to my coach Beard, Chris Evans. Chris, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, doing fine. So 25 minutes, half hour ago, I started that day shift movie on Netflix, Jamie Foxx.
Vampire. I haven't got to that yet.
Anyway, so the whole thing is I realized today, it's only October the 2nd. I'm like, okay, my spooky season hasn't been indulged. I haven't been doing enough.
You're one day behind, sir.
That's right. I feel guilty in some way. So I read horror comics and I started watching a horror movie today. So the sense in my head is starting to realize, okay, spooky season is coming. And, you know, we talked about this, I think it was last week or the weekend before, where we were talking about that poll about how, you know, spooky season starts earlier for others than not. And I'm like, exactly, Chris. It's the second day of October. I feel horrible that I haven't done enough for spooky season.
Welcome to spooky season.
That's right. Gathering of the Geeks is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Just search Gathering of the Geeks and you will find us. What's up to everybody in the comments already? Eric, Lauren, DC Patrol, Cookie, Grabs. I saw Travis Hines in there as well. And DC Patrol, I think you said, how's everybody doing on this fine Sunday evening? How's everybody's spooky season going so far? Are you fully entrenched in it? Are you slow getting into it? I don't think we have to ask Cookie. Did you see some of her makeup that she was putting on her Twitter timeline?
Yeah,
holy cow, is it badass?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that's one thing that I just wanted to point out as well is I feel guilty that I'm 2 days behind in spooky season and Cookie's out here painting her face and doing killer makeup.
You're doing rookie stuff, man.
That's right.
You're doing rookie stuff.
I'm watching Netflix movies and, you know, she's living the life. So
I already watched both Hocus Pocuses.
Man.
I watched Halloween last night and an episode of Review with the Vampire. Come on now.
Yeah. All right, Chris. So aside from all that, what did you get up to this past week? Lots to watch. There is lots to read, but what stuck out for you?
A lot of stuff to read, actually. It's funny. So there's a new Batman book out this week. I haven't read it, but what I did read was 3 different indie comics. So first up, I read Briar, and simply because I like the cover, as per usual. Mm-hmm. It was actually a really cool story, though. So for those of you guys who don't know, it's written by Chuck Brown, and it's about a princess who, I know this is a fairy tale. I don't remember which fairy tale, but she touches the spinning wheel thing and goes to sleep.
Isn't it Sleeping Beauty?
Is that Sleeping Beauty?
I'm going to have to look it up here just to double check.
Well, it's kind of like that.
Sleeping Beauty. Yep.
Okay, so she stays asleep for really long time. Some things happen. She wakes up in the future, like 100 years later. Everything is different, and she's kind of living life on the lamb now. Pretty cool. It also has a giant rat, which is something different. I didn't expect.
All right.
It kind of gave me a Twig vibe too, so I'm in for that.
I was waiting for something you mentioned something something cute, and I'm like, wait a second, he's gonna say Twig and he's gonna mention Twig here.
I have to. Yeah. If we had a contract, it would be in the contract at this point.
That's right.
The Briar, it was really cool. I liked it. It's not my book of the week though. I also read Hell is a Squared Circle, which you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
That one was a complete surprise to me because I assumed it was some type of otherworldly spooky bullshit.
Okay.
And it's not. It's actually just about a sad wrestler. Basically. It's kind of like the Mickey Rourke movie.
That exactly. Yeah, that's right.
But in comic form. So that was different.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, it kind of reminded me of Scott Hall, unfortunately. But
he unfortunately.
But it was a really good book. I liked it a lot. And I know you read that one too.
Yep.
I think my book of the week though is Flawed Number 1. That's my book.
I don't know that one.
I made a mistake. Briar's not written by Chuck Brown. Flawed is.
Okay, yeah. What's that one?
Yeah, Flawed Number 1, without giving too much away, takes place in like the this city that's built by murderers, thieves. That's actually in the description. It's a hellscape. Imagine Gotham City, I guess.
I'll look this up.
And
Okay.
this lady is a therapist and kind of like a John Wick character at the same time.
Okay.
And she likes to give her own version of justice out there.
Her own version of justice.
Yes.
It's bloody justice. Is that what it is?
Oh, it is. It is definitely bloody. Like this, it's got some eye-popping violence, and that is a pun. When you read the book, you'll understand.
Oh, okay.
It's very, very good though. I enjoyed that. That would be my book of the week.
Interesting. So Chuck Brown, he's the writer of Bitter Root. Have you read that one?
No, but it sounds bitter.
Yeah.
We need one of those, like the drum thing.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah, the thing. Yeah, that. We need one of those.
So I didn't read Briar. You said you were going to read it, and I said I was going to read it, and I downloaded it, and then I flipped through the first couple pages, and the art turned me off pretty heavily.
Really?
I don't know. Something about that style. The colors are very muted for some reason. Well, maybe I won't say for some reason, because I didn't finish the book. But maybe it's just I will give it another go, but just on face value, something about the art in Briar didn't catch me. The quick review you gave of Flawed just then, mentioning John Wick, that's a high selling point for me. That's an instant read with any kind of description like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of is like a John Wick vibe, sort of. And Briar, I will agree. The art was not my favorite thing about it. It's very like soft, is the way I would describe it. Yep. It has like this fairy tale look to it, which isn't bad, and it's kind of fun when the violence kicks in later because it's a weird contradiction. But I enjoyed it.
Interesting.
It's not bad. Different.
Yeah, that's pretty big of you, Chris. That Detective Comics 1064 came out this week, and you didn't read it, and you subverted it for 3 indie comics. That's quite the stretch.
I'm actually 2 behind on Detective Comics.
Oh, really? Is that for a reason, or it's just not catching you, or
I just haven't got to it. And every week I say I'm going to read this, and this, and I read 2 of those.
That's right.
So that has happened again, but maybe I will get to Detective though.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. I heard it's good.
Yeah, I'd also recommend, if you haven't, Old Dog came out this week.
I saw that too, but I didn't pick it up.
Yeah, it's kind of like a I don't know, like a government cover-up kind of deal. It's got some supernatural elements to it. It's from, I forget who it was. I just had it here. Oh, Declan Shalvey or Shalvey.
Oh yeah, I've read some of his stuff.
Yeah, I think you might like that one. You're into the espionage type of story. It's pretty good.
I just saw the title of it, and I automatically assumed it was like that other dog book. The
Stray Dogs.
Yeah, I assumed it was a spinoff. I was like, eh.
Yeah, not that spinoff. Yeah, they're not strays anymore. They're just old.
Also, DC Patrol is correct. Just in case I forgot, the Batman is still on HBO Max. It is.
It wasn't a big reading week for me this week. I don't know why. Again, I feel like this has been a couple weeks in a row for me now, and I think it's just because there's so much to watch. I'm more or less reading older stuff just to get the stuff that I already own, that kind of thing. Newer stuff's not blowing me away as much as in past. It's not really the quality issues of the comics that are coming out. More of a thing on my side of things, where I'm just watching more than I have in a very long time. Not even just newer stuff. Just on my downtime, I'll just be like, I'll put it on a rerun of a TV show, or put the Food Network on or something. Something about watching TV right now is very much taking over my comic reading aspects of things.
I feel like it's just a different beast, and we forgot to put this back on. I feel like
hey, there we are.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, hey, something's missing. Yeah, sometimes I prefer just to watch things too because I feel like it takes less mental energy when
Mhm.
there's times when you get home or whatever, you just don't have the mental capacity to sink into a book.
Yeah,
And it's easier just to throw an episode of Friends or Big Bang
sure.
Theory or
Yep.
whatever you like. I Met Your
Yeah,
Mother, perhaps.
yeah, and it doesn't help. Like, I think Grabs is making a joke here about there's too many amazing things on TV. It's true. Like the stuff that I'm watching, that Chris, you and I are watching, the quality of some of this stuff is some of the best stuff that I've seen all year.
Hmm.
So that's the other thing. It's taking up so much of my headspace as well. Like Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, Interview with the Vampire. It's like, wow, these are some of the best shows. Well, 2/3 of those are some of the best shows. They're some of the best shows that I've seen this year, and seen in a long time. So I think that's it too. And on the other side of it, like with the good, the bad is also taking up a lot of time too. And we can talk about it with, like, we both watched the Munsters, and we both had thoughts about the latest episode of House of the Dragon too. Like it creates a conversation, but some of the conversation is not very positive. So in one way, the good is very good, and some of the bad is also quite bad. And that's what's taking up a lot of my time, is thinking and talking about the quality of the TV shows and the movies that are coming out right now. And
Yeah,
I'm not caught up on Lower Decks either, Eric. I'm ashamed of that as well.
I'm behind on She-Hulk, actually. I forgot about that one this week. Grabs is watching it slowly, and I, I worry for him because I don't want him to get spoiled because this latest episode is insane. I don't even want to talk about it here.
Well, we don't talk about Rings of Power. We have our own podcast for that. Elves, Hobbits, and Potatoes, wherever you get your podcast.
Well, I think if we started here, we wouldn't stop.
We'd talk for a whole entire hour.
Yeah, I mean, but just to keep that one short, I loved it this week. It's amazing.
Yep.
But I don't want to spoil anything. And unfortunately, this episode you cannot talk about without spoiling.
Yes.
So that's that.
Okay, Chris, let's talk about it. So
are you ready?
It's
for
funny.
this?
The two things that I wanted to talk about, aside from just our quick little comics, were about two negative things that happened in my viewing this week. One was House of the Dragon, which I was surprised about not liking or not enjoying totally. But then there was the Munsters, which I fully expected to not like this movie. There was just so much from what we saw in the trailers, what we saw from some of our friends online talking about it. Chris, you saw it a little while ago, and you kind of gave me a brief oversight of it. And just going into this movie, I was so surprised about the lack of any kind of enjoyment. Not a single ounce of the Munsters was enjoyable in any way. I wanted it to be over after the 10-minute mark, the half-hour mark, the hour mark, and I couldn't wait for it to be over. And then all of a sudden the movie ended. And I was confused about why it ended and what was happening with this movie and all about it. There's not a single frame of this movie that looks good. There isn't a single acting performance in this movie that is good. I hated the Munsters more than I expected to hate it, considering I went in knowing that I wasn't going to like it. Chris, what do you think of the Munsters?
So, I don't know if anybody remembers me talking about Malignant last year. But when I spoke about Malignant, I think I was pretty clear when I said it will go down as one of the worst movies I've ever sat through. Like, I really don't like it. This is worse. And this one kind of hurts too because I'm such a fan of the Munsters, the TV series.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we can talk about it because it's out. A lot of people have seen it.
Yes.
It is a terrible, terrible film. And there's really only one redeeming aspect from it, and it really shouldn't even count. But Count Orlok's makeup is the best thing in this entire movie.
And you only get that in the first 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, and he's only in it for maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Disco Vampire.
Oh, Jesus.
So yeah, last night when Emmet was watching it, I told him all I'm saying is Disco Vampire, and I left it at that.
Yep.
Did you like that scene?
Yeah, and I responded to you with "ugh," one word, "ugh," and where is he outside? Yeah, he's outside of a. I don't know. I guess there's a sign that says
His
funeral
house,
parlor, and
I
I guess
think, or
yeah.
his
Anyways, he
something.
just starts dancing, and there's lots of dancing, and there's lots of musical again. So I have not seen a single frame, minute, single second of anything Munsters before. I
Mhm.
went into this totally, completely confused about what the Munsters were. I had a general idea of what the Munsters were. And I asked Chris after I finished watching that, and you told me like Rob Zombie, the writer and director of this movie, he went into this making the movie as a huge fan of the Munsters. Like everything you think you know about Rob Zombie, the horror nature, I assume this all kind of built from his love of watching the Munsters when he was a kid in some way.
Maybe.
And I assume so. This is just what I'm assuming. So then I asked Chris, like, is this anything like the Munsters in any way? And I think you basically responded that there's like some themes that were there,
I
but
mean,
it was so far from what the Munsters actually is to you. That was this movie.
yeah, the Monsters is a show about a family, a monster family. This was not that. The tone is kind of there, but this is more of a parody. Kind of like
Right.
you've seen the Brady Bunch movie and you've seen the series, right?
I haven't seen the series. I've seen the movie.
Okay, so the movie is a parody of the series essentially, because the
Right.
series they didn't know they were being funny, or they didn't know they were funny, or that it would be interpreted as that way. To them,
Right.
this was The Godfather. They're doing Citizen Kane every week in that house.
That's right.
Alice is Betty Davis, but so as we are with this one, they kind of try to do the same thing, maybe, but it doesn't work. It just works on no, like you said, on not any level for me. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that too. You've never seen it.
No, I don't know how old the show is, but it wasn't big. I don't know. Maybe, speaking for myself, it wasn't big. My family never watched it.
That's
Like
fair.
I grew up watching Full House. Like Family Matters. Like I was on the other spectrum of the family TV show, aside from the Brady Bunch and what's the other one, the Partridge Family. I didn't.
I never
What's
watched
the
that.
other side? Okay.
Well, I used to consume the Nick at Night channel, and they would play
Okay.
all these shows from like this 50s, 60s. So I have a vast knowledge of these. Like Happy Days was kind of my jam for a long time.
Yes.
I needed a leather jacket like Fonzie. So, but anyway, the Monster sucks for me, and I wouldn't wish it upon an enemy. And Malignant
No.
is the Godfather in comparison. Grab said Battleship is the Godfather. Battleship might be Shawshank Redemption compared to.
Grab's holding on to this Battleship joke. He's keeping that joke alive. So I commend him for it.
I gotta watch that movie one day just to see what he's talking about, because I've never seen it. I just know what it is.
So the other question that I had is like, the movie ends, and so is this a prequel to the TV show? In the TV show, do you see any of what you saw in the movie? So is this a prequel? Does that change anything?
It's an original story, I suppose, because I don't remember ever seeing how Herman and Lily got together.
Right.
And even at that, like, Grandpa is wildly different in the series.
Okay.
Here, Grandpa is kind of like a mean-spirited older man, I suppose.
Yes. Yes.
In the series, he's kind of like I want to call him a buffoon, but he's much more warm. He's lighthearted and he's fun. This guy is not fun.
No.
This guy is just angry old Dracula, I guess, is what he's supposed to be.
Yeah, they're vampires, yes? Lily and
her father are, yeah.
And in the TV show, are they shown to be vampires?
Mm-hmm.
Or because I never got that sense in the movie. Like they go outside, they're on the plane.
Yeah,
they don't have fangs. He shoots some lightning out of his fingers at one point.
Yeah, they also eat food. I don't really know, but that's what they are. Yeah, they are vampires.
Okay.
And Lester is a werewolf for some reason.
That's not a thing?
It is in the series, but he only appeared in one episode.
Oh. I was confused about that whole backstory with Lester and I guess it was Grandpa's like ex-wife or something with the selling of the house. I thought that was so strange. I'm like, why are you guys getting so complicated here? Why is this and the opening of the scene with the humpback guy and
you didn't like Floop? What do you mean? Floop is awesome.
Like I'm like, wait a second, why am I watching this? Why don't I just watch Young Frankenstein? Like that's literally what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like with the Abby
Frankenstein's better, too.
Normal, like Young Frankenstein's a classic. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? Why
Hoop
are they
sucks,
telling
too.
this story over and again? Yeah, so I've it's not very often that I've gone into a movie that I've told myself that other people have told me you are not going to like. This is not a good movie, and then to be proven right in that sense. It's not very often that I'll actually watch a movie that I know is bad. Like, and we talked about this when we talked with Cookie. She's not going to watch it. She's not going to put herself through it. You, on the other hand, said you want to be able to, experience it, experience the bad. You just want to see what it's going to be like. It's not very often that I'll do that. And this movie is going to make it so that I never do it again. For science, and I told you, Chris, that I was going to do this for science just so we could talk about it. I don't know if I want to do it for science again.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't, but
Okay.
You do you.
Yeah. It's also not very often, folks, that we talk about something that we don't like on this show. Most of the time, if we don't like it, we just won't bother talking about it. But we feel like the Munsters, Chris, this is something that's very close to you. That's why we wanted to talk about it. So if people are wondering why we're talking about things we don't like, it's not very often that we do. I think this is probably the only time that we've ever done it. Maybe the second time. It's just something because it meant so much to you, I think, Chris, as watching the TV show.
Before we get off the topic of the Munsters, which I'm sure everybody will be glad, including us, but the thing about Rob Zombie, and we talk about like unnecessary things he adds to movies. Halloween 2 is a 2-hour exercise in unnecessary things.
Just him pushing the limits of what he thinks he can do and what
Sherry Moon on a horse. Michael talks.
Talking.
Bunch of crap.
Bunch of crap.
Blonde or the Munsters? Malignant.
Just to make everyone clear, I loved Malignant. I thought it was awesome, which is a really interesting thing, Chris. And Chris, that's not the only thing that we feel the same way. Joker, you hate.
I do.
I love Joker. That's not the only thing. Like we're it's not like I think it's okay. I love Joker. I love Malignant, and it's just I think those are funny that we're on different sides of the spectrum on those two movies.
It's okay. We can disagree.
Yeah, it is.
I don't mind.
Okay, so I want to talk negatively about something else that we both watched, and something that is all over the Twitterverse, all over social media, and that's House of the Dragon. People are talking about this show like it's the best show HBO has ever put out, it feels like. We've kind of been up and down on it. I think what was this past episode? I think it was episode 6.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think we enjoyed the first 3 episodes. And then there was the 4th episode was Rhaenyra and Daemon going into the Pleasure Street on and then there was the next episode, which we kind of liked again. And then they released episode 6, which came out this past week with the new cast. They jumped ahead another 10 years, and we've got the kids. We've got Rhaenyra's kids, and we've got Alicent and Viserys's kids. I've been questioning the motivations, the reasons why the characters are doing their things in this TV show for which is like 3 or 4 episodes now. Why Otto Hightower is doing the things that he's doing, why Daemon is doing the things that he's doing, why Kristen Cole is doing the things, why Alicent is doing the things that she's doing. I'm just so confused about why people are doing the things that they're doing. And I was confused like all the way back when Viserys fired Otto Hightower. I'm like, well, this guy's been with you for so many years and you're just going to fire him right now all of a sudden because he told you something that's true. Anyway, so when we jump ahead this 10 years, although things haven't changed, questionable people are doing questionable things, and unlikable characters are unlikable. And Chris, I talked to you about this, and I talked to my wife about this too. Game of Thrones, the original, had unlikable characters that you liked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Joffrey, unlikable, did horrible, terrible things. Good character.
Oh, I thought you were
Cersei.
gonna say you liked him. I was like, what?
No, no, Cersei, terrible, horrible things that she's done.
Mm-hmm.
Good character. Okay, and on the flip side of this show, there's terrible, horrible characters that I can't stand. Alicent is doing, you know, going behind people's backs, holding grudges for 10 years for no reason. I feel like I don't care about her. I don't care. You know, this Aegon, her son, who is one of the weirdest and strangest scenes that I've ever seen in a TV show. Okay, he's a teenage boy. I get it. He wants to masturbate. He's doing it in a window, sure. But then his mother walks in on him and feels like nothing is wrong, and then has a conversation with him about, you know, you need to protect yourself and you need to kill your cousins and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Why does this feel like this is okay? And I get it. It's a show about incest. The incest is not going away. Also, it's never going away. But I just can't stand these characters and the things that they're doing in the show. I can't stand it, Christopher.
I think Zeddy's got it here. There's a difference between characters you love to hate or hate to love, and there's characters you flat out hate. I think
Absolutely.
Zeddy nails it. But
I love to hate Joffrey. I love to hate Cersei. I don't love to hate Alicent. I don't love to hate Aegon. I just don't. I don't like these characters. And this Aegon character, I've known him for what, 25 minutes. The amount that he's in this episode, like, yeah, and that it's not going away. Grabs, and they're marrying cousins and they're marrying brothers, and it's like, okay, sure, that's fine, whatever. No, I don't care.
Rome.
Yeah, but I don't want to be
in Westeros.
When in Westeros, Chris. Anyways, again, the show is very well made. It's very well acted. These new actresses who take over for Rhaenyra and Alicent, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Laenor is very good. Lady Lyanna, Daemon's new wife, and that whole scene with her, great stuff. It's just, I can't get behind it. First of all, you get to like somebody and then they're gone, which is kind of a Game of Thrones thing all on its own about anyone can die at any time, which is I'm generally I'm okay with. But it's something about this latest episode and that episode 4, which was another strange episode about people doing very strange things. I just can't wrap my head around it, Chris.
Well, I actually liked the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I think that this was actually a great episode, save for some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Namely, the Alicent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I feel like I missed something in between the time jump of why she's turned this way. But our buddy Nico brought up some points the other day on Twitter, and I have to say he's not wrong. Like, we saw the threads here. Her father got kicked out of the kingdom. That was one thing.
Mm-hmm.
He got kicked out over something he wasn't wrong about.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the other points, but he made good points. I have to look it up. He tweeted it. I have to look it up.
Check out Nico Caruso on Twitter.
Right. He's got some points there. So, but I still didn't. I'm not a fan of the incest, of course, Alicent.
Sure.
But I think everything else in the episode is pretty smooth. I do think the Aegon scene is weird for the reasons you mentioned, and also he's supposed to be a child. We shouldn't see that.
Yeah, well, so it's 10 years after. I feel like in that last episode he was a year and a half, maybe 2.
Yeah, I'm saying
So,
I'm guessing like 13 or 14.
This kid's 12 years old, and we're looking at his bare ass as he's masturbating above King's Landing. Like, what's
that window has seen some things. So that's also the window that
I was just saying, is that the one that Tommen jumped out of?
That's the same one, yeah. That window is cursed.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. It's the cursed window.
I like the episode. I thought it was pretty good. It moves the story forward. I think Viserys becoming the Crypt Keeper. This is a great origin story. I'm totally in on this Crypt Keeper origin. But yeah, I don't hate the show. I just don't love it the way I love Game of Thrones. And I also think the characters are just unlikable and not.
Yep.
It's like Zeddy said, that you don't even love to hate them. They're just unlikable. I do like Rhaenyra though. I think Rhaenyra.
I agree with that too, but she also makes questionable decisions as well. Okay, she makes this pact with Laenor. Sure, he's gay. He's going to do his own things, and they have, and then Rhaenyra has now 3 kids, and they all don't look the same. It couldn't be like, hey, Laenor, let's if you
hated, jump off and get on the Andor train.
Yeah, Rhaenyra and Laenor should have been like, okay, let's do this once. Let's have a kid so we can have white hair, so we can say that we're doing this right. Instead, they're saying, nope, we don't care. I'm just going to sleep with this guy who saved me at a wedding 10 years ago, and we don't see the relationship in any way. And then they just have 3 kids with brown hair. I feel like
remember he saved her.
Yeah, well, what's his name? The Hand of the King.
Yeah.
Ron kind of gives him a nod or whatever, and he picks her up. And it took me the entire episode to realize who that was, because that was another thing with this time jump. I'm like, wait a second, who the hell is this guy? So, anyways, I feel like Rhaenyra is a smart person, and she does very smart things. But I feel like her, if they're going to create this charade, her and Laenor, they could have been like, okay, Laenor, I know you're not with it, cool, but we got to do it once. We have to have a kid that has white hair,
for the realm.
Let's take one for the team, and we'll put this all aside, and we'll be able to carry on, and nobody will get murdered and all that kind of stuff. It just all of these steps about how this war is building and how the this dance of the dragons, it's eventually going to happen. It's like there could have been slight turns at every which way about how this wouldn't have happened if certain people didn't make stupid decisions. And I guess in the general sense, that's the point. It just feel like I'm not invested in the decisions and these characters as they're making them.
Fun fact, before Rings of Power and Game of Thrones premiered, Emmet and I were deciding which show we wanted to do the podcast on.
Yep.
I'm glad we chose Rings of Power.
That would have been very strange.
Yeah.
That would have been a different one. Especially because even if we just talking about this, the certain subject matter, it's just like, talking about this. And anyways,
I like Hocus Pocus.
That's good. Did you like Hocus Pocus too?
Did
you like it?
Yeah. I know it was very good. It's a worthy legacy sequel is the way I would describe it. And I really think the plot is better in the second one than it is in the first one.
I read some things about like weird green screen or weird visual effects in some way in the new one.
You can tell it's shot. Well, I think some of it is shot on location, but some of it looks like it's like on a sound stage, and I don't usually care about that. But I think maybe we're just kind of spoiled because we see all these other shows that don't look like this, so you get kind of this classic looking. It looks like a classic film. It's got that look to it, so I think it just turns people off. I thought it was fine.
Did you watch the 1 and 2 pretty close together?
Back to back.
How was that? Did that help a lot? Like we're not talking about the Shawshank Redemption. We're not talking about Citizen Kane, but these fun movies and even just seeing the characters again, like the 3 witches and that kind of thing. Was it cool? Kind of.
It was, and I think it helps you pick up on the subtle things that they try to do in the second one to call back. It's cool to see them that way. If you have the time, anybody, that's how I would recommend watching it, because they're only about 90 minutes each, so it's like one Lord of the Rings movie, or watching the Batman on HBO Max.
Watching the Batman on HBO Max.
It's about a 3-hour endeavor, but it's a good time. I thought it was fun, and the effects do have a nice update to them on the new one, of course. That is a cool cameo that I think everybody's spoiling, but it's pretty cool.
Oh, I haven't seen anything about it yet. That's cool though. Okay, so that's basically what we got up to this week, and I know again I was overly negative for the first little half about talking about things that we watched, but
I think it's fine.
That's just the way it goes sometimes. So one of the things we really loved this week was, and we didn't have a poll this week, guys, so we're gonna skip over that, and we're gonna kind of talk about a main topic about the streaming wars. So one thing that we really enjoyed this week, and we could only watch it if we had a certain streaming service. So Interview with the Vampire came out, I guess technically it came out on Friday. If you have a streaming service and it comes out, you could watch it tonight. I think
watch 2 episodes tonight on AMC Plus app.
Right. So we had, Chris and I both had to sign up for AMC Plus. I did a 7-day free trial. I'm assuming Chris is doing the same thing. And then after that, it's $9.99 for myself.
So that was for you? I think it's like $7 for me.
That's just the conversion rate. Yeah. So that's normal. $9.99. You get Shudder. You get BBC.
IFC.
IFC.
And you get live TV.
So I got Chris thinking about streaming services. About we just added another one with AMC Plus, and we only added it basically for one show, Interview with a Vampire. Chris and people in the chats, how many streaming services did you have, Chris?
I have Hulu, HBO Max, Netflix, Disney Plus, Peacock, and now AMC Plus. So that's 6.
And do you also have cable or some
No,
sort
no,
of
I'm a
outlet? Or are you
cord
just
cutter.
streaming only?
Yeah, I realize I don't watch live TV much at all. I would just DVR it anyway. So at that point, why not just get an app?
Mm-hmm. So I basically have the same amount, and I also don't have TV as well, Chris. But what do you think? Like this cord cutting thing,
I have Amazon. I forgot about that.
yeah,
7.
and the death of cable, and too many streaming services, and the price of streaming services, and when this first started, when the streaming services were coming out, people were like, okay, I'm just going to cancel my cable and get the streaming services. And now it feels like people are like, okay, I need to cut down on my streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
I need to cut down on which ones I have. I think each one offers something totally different from the other ones, whether it be the content, the viewing experience with the binge model, the weekly thing, quality, how much money is put into the shows and movies, that kind of thing. But Chris, what's your overall thoughts about the streaming services? Which ones are the best ones, and is there a right number to have? And if you had to cut one, which one would you cut? What's your overall thoughts? Exactly, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron is right. Streaming services are out of control at this point. Everything has a streaming service. And a lot of them are going to, like I saw, I think it's Paramount and Showtime that are about to combine and make a larger service. And it's probably going to cost even more to have both. As we know, WB and Discovery are going to be combining to make a super streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It is overwhelming. As Zeddy says, network TV is starting to fold into streaming services too now. Showtime folding into Paramount. Yeah. I think that it's interesting because when it started, we just had Netflix and it was like, oh, this is interesting. What is this?
Yes.
And on that first version of the Netflix streaming platform, there really wasn't a lot of stuff, but there
Not as
was
much as they have
still
now.
right, but there was still quite a bit. It replaced Blockbuster Video, of course, or other video rental places.
Right.
And at the time, I don't think anybody assumed we would get to where we are now, because as it is now, we have streaming services that exist just to pump their own content. Like Netflix, for example, is mostly Netflix created content now, where some of HBO Max is a huge variety of stuff. That's my favorite, is HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have stuff like Shudder, which I wouldn't have paid for by itself because it's just horror films.
Yes.
And I don't watch that much horror, to pay for that. But when it's rolled into AMC, which is something I will use, like, oh, okay, it's a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many, and the price of them. If you were to get every streaming service there is right now, you're paying more than you would for average cable.
$100 a month, depending on which one. Like Cookie said, she has 8. If each one's $10 or roughly $10, it's $80 a month. Grabs has the interesting thing there about the Prime and how it's included with the free shipping and the different bundles you can get. I think there is a certain way to do it. Grabs is one to do it. He's Mr. Budget about things. There is ways to do it where you're not overly paying. But my overall thoughts about streaming services is I want to be able to watch what I want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like what am I supposed to do? Again, overall, it's not the biggest problem in the world. But what if I wanted to watch Interview with a Vampire? There are ways to watch it where you don't have to pay. There are ways to do it. I guess it's more of a moral thing, but if I want to watch something, I want to be able to move over on my my Apple TV or whatever and click on it and watch it. It really comes down. And I don't have Apple TV right now. When Ted Lasso comes on,
Apple TV also.
Yeah, when Ted Lasso comes on, I will then get Apple TV. So when Interview with a Vampire is over, I assume not have AMC Plus anymore. Mm-hmm. When season 2 comes back on, I will get it again. So I think I need to tell myself that is you don't have to sign up for a yearly thing. Even though you save money overall, monthly is $10, yearly is $80 for the year or something like that. So it's kind of training your mind, and there's a lot of stuff going on. If anybody recently watched the Nerd Room podcast, they did a toy live stream about how much toys are becoming right now. People are talking about how much comics are right now. Eventually, people are going to be talking about how much streaming services are right now. So there has to be a way to do it. It's not like, okay, here, take my money, and I'll watch when I watch. It has to be like, okay, I want to watch this now. Here's my money. So there's got to be a way to make it work for budget purposes, or otherwise you're just gonna miss things because I think you're gonna be so disgruntled about what that service is costing you.
That's true too. You would think, like, because there's some that are cheaper than others, of course. Peacock is $4.99 a month, but you get ads with that version. Are you okay with ads? I don't mind them because I don't generally binge watch stuff. So if there's a couple ads when I'm rewatching The Office, I don't mind. But like Zeddy says here, and he's correct, especially if you don't want ads in your subscriptions, even more already. Like Hulu, I get for free because of my Spotify subscription. I've been grandfathered into that plan forever.
Right.
It has ads. If I want to change that, I can, but it's like, well, I got it for free anyway. Why would I?
Yeah.
I think it all just depends how you want to watch TV and what you want to watch. And how long that show's going to run is a thing too, because like you, I'm probably going to get rid of AMC Plus in 2 months. It's pretty likely, but my mainstays are always going to be the same ones, which are like Netflix, HBO Max, and Hulu, of course, and in Prime because you just get the free shipping. So why not?
Yeah, no, I did the yearly thing on Prime. I think paying for it yearly also really helps. Like I paid $80 in February every year for Prime, and then you don't see another payment on your credit card, debit card, or whatever every month. Netflix it's so funny that Netflix is the first, and it feels like that's the last one that I would get rid of. It just feels like they're like it's like a angel on my shoulder, a devil on my shoulder saying you can't get rid of me. I'm the first, But it's like I feel like Netflix is one of the ones that I watch the least. But because of the catalog they have, I feel like there's always something to watch.
Yeah, whether it's new or it's like an old favorite. I frequently just kind of throw on New Girl and have it play in the background when I'm doing something.
Right.
That's one of my background shows, like Big Bang Theory is. It makes for great noise.
Do you feel like there is one service that you do have, Chris, that if you had to get rid of, you would get rid of? Taking out obviously what we just talked about, where once Interview with the Vampire is over, AMC Plus will be the one. But if there was something to watch every single day, every single month, what do you feel like would be the one that you would get rid of?
Probably Prime. I hardly use Prime. I even forget I have it most of the time. But Rings of Power, of course, and they do have and Invincible. A lot of the Amazon Prime like streaming films are terrible B movies.
Right.
Like absolutely. I think I've mentioned before the RoboCop versus the zombie thing.
That's right. That was last week you talked about that.
Terrible stuff on there. So that's probably the one I would get rid of. But then I would also Apple TV, because I just don't need it when Ted Lasso's not on. I only have it now because I got that 6-month deal. And I did watch Blackbird with it, so I guess that's cool. You
did like Blackbird?
Yeah, and I need to. There's something else on there too I want to watch with Adam Scott, which I'll get to eventually.
Yeah, I want to say that I get rid of Disney Plus, but that's a tough one for me because of the stuff that's included in it. So we get Star, which is basically the Hulu stuff. Yeah. That's how I watched Prey, and that's how I will watch Hellraiser this weekend. It's also how I watched Only Murders in the Building. It's also how I watch most of the new Marvel movies that come out. I don't go to the theater. I've watched them when they come on Disney Plus. And again, the catalog for Disney Plus, if I want to, watch Moana with my kids or anything, just it's such a tough one. And I thought about Prime as well. I like the Prime originals. I like Reacher. I like The Boys. Invincible, yes. Amazon Prime or Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. But we also have a thing here that's included, and you can add things onto our Amazon Prime here, which is called Stack TV. which has the History Channel, which has the Food Network, all the other little sub pockets like that. I can also watch live TV on Amazon Prime through the Stack TV thing. So there's always something that each streaming service has one little thing, and that's how they grab you. That's how they get you to. That's how they said, "Oh, I can't get rid of this because of this." And, AMC Plus right now they only have Interview with the Vampire. So when that's over, there's nothing that's going to want to keep me to that one right now. It's still very early. I feel like Amazon Plus is brand new.
It's newer, but I mean, for me, they have. I like we were talking. I do want to watch The Walking Dead final season, or some of it at least. So it'll help me with that. Plus, there's a 10,000 spinoffs they have. It also has Shudder built in, so they have a bunch of spooky movies for the month. That's pretty cool for me. And I might find another use for it, but yeah, it's probably got a shelf life of 2 months for me at this moment. Disney Plus though is a fun one for me because I also watch the Marvel movies on there. I like to watch the old X-Men animated series on there, whether it's the Fox one or Evolution, Wolverine, the X-Men. They're all cool. But also sometimes I just want to watch Encanto.
Yeah,
I just like it. Apple TV, I think, is the most expendable streaming service outside of Ted Lasso and a few Oscar films. Disney Plus should get the most bang for your buck, and HBO Max has what everyone loves and wants on it. I'm dropping Shudder after Dragula is over. So I didn't know what Dragula was until I got, I'd seen Cookie post about it, of course, but I didn't realize what it was exactly until I saw it on AMC Plus. So I'm kind of interested now, too. I'm just curious. I may watch that. Disney Plus will never leave my household. It's the one we watch the most, kid friendly. It is great for the kids.
Yeah, it's the only one that's great for the kids. And Netflix has some stuff.
Well, Netflix also has like the Netflix Kids thing on there. I think.
Yeah,
but it's a weird. It doesn't have a lot of stuff on there. I think Prime has one also that blocks out the RoboCop versus zombies stuff.
Why would you want to though?
I know. Why? Maybe Battleship is on there. D Plus will always stay. I drop Paramount Plus until Yellowstone kicks up again. Now Paramount Plus is one I think I actually want, but I realize I don't have enough time to watch all these things. But I think they're getting the Mission Impossible films, which is pretty cool.
They've got a lot of movies in there, and that Jen and my wife and I were wondering because we want to watch Top Gun Maverick with my father-in-law, her father, and she was like, "Well, is it going to be on Amazon Prime?" I'm like, "No, it's going to be on Paramount Plus soon because I assume it's a Paramount movie." So, and I know my wife signed up for that to watch something on there. I can't remember what it was.
You're being called out again.
No, Aaron, I do not go to the theater. Our Yellowstone is on Amazon Prime here, but 1883, the other Taylor Sheridan and the other Yellowstone spinoffs, they're not on Amazon Prime. So there's some sort of weird rights deal with Yellowstone and Amazon Prime. So I can watch Yellowstone on Prime, but I would have to watch the other cool stuff from Taylor Sheridan, who's pretty much a Paramount guy right now on Paramount Plus, which is another tough one.
Is he related to Tyler Sheridan?
No. Oh. Well, I don't know that actually, because Tyler definitely could be his son for sure. But I don't know that. I don't know that.
I like Tyler Sheridan. He's cool.
So one interesting thing I thought about with all these movie and TV streaming services is how the comic ones didn't really catch on. Overly, I don't think. Like DC Infinite.
Well, no, DC
hasn't really. Is it strong? And I guess what I'm thinking about is there are movies and TV shows made for streaming services. In the comic world, you get old ones. You get comics that are a couple months old. You don't get a brand new comic on DC Infinite or Marvel Unlimited. I don't think on Marvel Unlimited.
Well, Marvel Unlimited is 3 months. DC, I believe, is 6. I think that's the way it is. Maybe I'm wrong.
What do you think about that streaming? Streaming services or comic services, about getting your stuff the same way you would get movies and TV shows. Do you think comics should be the same way? Do you think there should be a streaming only version of a comic, or do you think day of comics should be on streaming services? Would you pay?
They have those
$15, $20 a month for why? What is that? Amazon does that now, right? Because Comixology doesn't exist.
Yeah, Comixology does it, but DC Infinite and Marvel both have like certain day one books will hit on those. Marvel has a whole line of comics that's only for the app. So they do have that. I think those services are fantastic, though. I really do, because you get so many books for a small amount.
Yep.
And it's really, it's handy, especially if you wanted to kind of do a deep dive on a specific character. Like, I think it was last year or something, I wanted to read Green Lantern. I know nothing about Green Lantern. I knew nothing at the time. So I was like, hey, what should I read? And I went through the list on the app, and I kind of just tore through it, and it was great. Same thing with Marvel. When there's a character you just want to learn about, or something new, you can do that on those apps. You don't need the newer comics.
What do you think about that? Do you ever think there should be like an image service, Dark Horse service, Boom
I would love
Studios
that.
service?
I would
Do you
love
think
if
that would be?
I would love if those smaller publishers came together and made their own. That
Yeah.
would be so cool.
Well, and for the digital people, like I know, and again, you can get all of this stuff on Amazon in some shape or form. But I wonder about the streaming age, and everyone's complaining about comics are costing too much, and I guess in much like people are worried about movie theaters and streaming services, people are worried about comic shops and digital comics. But I feel like there's an ebb and flow with all of that stuff. But I just wonder about it just doesn't feel like, for me, maybe it's just because I'm not invested in it myself, like the digital service for getting your comics is very single-minded for the brand new ones. It's either Amazon for brand new or nothing, or a couple months later on either side, whether the DC or the Marvel thing.
Hypothetically, I would be willing to pay a little bit extra if I could get certain titles the day they come out.
Yeah.
I would be cool with that, because when you get them digitally in the apps, they're really optimized, so they're really nice to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like I'm going to be losing anything getting it digital. There are some books like I will go buy, like One Bad Day I wanted to have. I'm going to get the Twig trade, of course. That's another mention for Twig. And I would pay extra just to have them day and date, because I think that would give a boost to the services themselves, although they are pretty popular as is, especially the Marvel one. The Marvel one has a better UI, and it's just easier to deal with.
Yeah, I know Scott Snyder is really big on the digital only right now. He's basically, that's all he's doing on Amazon right now. Knights of the Ghoul, and some other ones that's only digital, and you can only get them on that service, and eventually they are released physical. I think Dark Horse has some of those, and it's the same thing we were seeing with the Substack things. This was a service you could only get your books here, and then eventually they just went to physical as well. So I guess there is more ways than I think. It's just not as prominent as the movies and TV side of things.
Pretty much. But streaming is here to stay, and it's only going to, like, you got the comics, you got movies and TV. We have music too, because there's Spotify, there's Apple, Amazon has one. I know there's another one. I think it's called Tidal or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's Pandora. There's a bunch of those too. Streaming is the future, I believe, or maybe this is now. I don't know.
Well, and we've seen, like, in this past year, coming out of COVID, that the streaming hasn't diminished the box office.
No,
we're still seeing very big numbers. So I think this was the big talk about, the day and date stuff with HBO Max and all that kind of stuff. Like and I think it's been proven over data that I've seen, some stuff. If a movie is in theaters for the 45 days, 50 days, whatever, and then goes to streaming, it does better on streaming than it would have if it wasn't in theaters. So it, like, they can work together. It is the thing. It's, we're calling it the streaming wars. It's not really that. It's just basically what you're saying here, Chris. It's the age of streaming, but there's also the time, and there's many people that still go to the theaters, and will watch things.
Well, you look at it like this way. Halloween Ends is coming out on, I think, the 11th, and that's going to be on Peacock and theaters simultaneously. That's really cool, and I'm sure it's going to make a ton of cash in the theater, and it's going to kill it on streaming. I'm going to be watching it at home because I just don't like horror movies in theaters, but that's just me. I'm not the majority. You got something like Black Adam also this month, which I already got my ticket for, and I'm very excited to see in the theater, and I wouldn't want to see it at home. I have to go see that in the theater, So I think that's the thing too. Some things people just want to see on a big screen.
I agree. I have a friend who asks me constantly, and we had a conversation about this last week. He wanted to go see Halloween Ends. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
you know what? We can watch it at home. You want to see it? Come over to my house. He's like, why? You don't want to go to the theater anymore? And I've gone on about the theater experience. I'm like, and the theater experience for me is anytime my kids want to go. We watched the Black Adam trailer last week sometime, my son, and he lost his mind when he saw Hawkman. And when
Yeah,
he saw all the
Hawkman looks
swords and the wings come
badass.
up, he looks so cool. So I'm like, all right. So, and again, I will go to the theater if I want to see a movie that I want to talk about with my friends. Grabs asked earlier in the conversation when if you hated the monster so much, why did you keep watching? Well, because I wanted to talk about it with friends. So I'm going to see Black Adam in the theater. I would rather watch it at home. If it was out, in theaters and on movie theaters the same day, I'd be watching it at home. But because it's not, I'm going to go to the theater. I'm going to be able to talk about it with friends. So again, if my kids want to go to the theater, that's fine. I can grit my teeth at the people in front of me. I can grit my teeth at the crappy chair and the sticky floor and the terrible sound and all of that kind of stuff. Just to see a movie with my family and my kids. But just to see a movie with a friend, if I can watch Halloween Ends at home, I will do that. I will not go to. I don't need to go to a theater to see that.
It will probably look good on a big screen though.
Sure, sure.
But
I
I
like
don't like horror films in theaters. That's just me.
yeah, because of the people or
Yeah,
because the way
no,
you
the
want to
audience.
interact. Yeah.
Audience can't stand it. It feels like for horror movies, everybody gets just extra rude or whatever,
Yeah.
and they just, hey, let's go to the theater. I'm super rude right now or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Today's obnoxious day. But Black Adam, I'm there
Obnoxious.
for. Yeah, I was considering going to the 4 o'clock showing of Black Adam, but I just went to the 7th. So.
Hmm.
Pretty excited.
Yeah, that's 19 days away for Black Adam. Very
Mm-hmm.
cool. Oh boy.
It's crazy. It's almost here. I'm in Halloween Ends is in 9 days. If I can, I
You
think I'm
said
kind
that
of
was
correct.
the 11th that's coming out?
I believe it's the 11th.
That's a Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, Phil is in the comments. I know he knows. When is Halloween Ends coming out?
That's right. Any Halloween questions?
Oh
Direct
no,
them
I think it's the
towards Phil
14th.
Walsh.
It's the 14th because yeah, Black Adam is the 21st. There we go.
That would make sense. There you go.
The blockbuster still reigns, but it's the smaller films that are being led to streaming. Yeah, and I think that's just kind of a product of the time too, though. People are just accustomed to sequels, reboots, things like that. They'd rather go see that than pay for a smaller film.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong. Like that's the big conversation
There's
about
stuff.
that thing. I don't know if there's anything wrong. Do you think there's anything wrong with that? The way theaters are being used, big blockbusters on the theater and the smaller, DVD sales going towards streaming. Do you think that's a hurtful thing overall for the movie
I
industry?
I don't because if you think about it, there's actually a lot of original films out right now. Like Smile,
Hmm.
which is a horror film, just killed at the box office.
Hmm.
Don't Worry, Darling, I think did decently.
Hmm.
That's an original film. And there's been Pearl, another horror film, did really well. But then there's other ones like Bros, which is not lighting the box office on fire.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's been a couple other ones, but it just kind of varies. I think that people are going to go see what they want to see, and when there's enough variety, people will see it.
Um, what? Yeah, I was just thinking about this question, and it got me thinking about the big releases for when AT&T decided to cancel all theatrical and do streaming only to the movies that were coming out. And if you recall the movies that were going straight to streaming, that year for HBO Max and Warner Brothers wasn't the bang up year.
No,
Like they
it's a
had
wash.
Mortal Kombat, which overall wasn't a very good movie. The only thing was Dune at the end of the. I love Mortal Kombat, by the way. There was no tournament and there's no story and acting wasn't that good
It was fun.
overall. But what do you think about the idea that and Netflix is basically this? We'll have 1,000 movies a year on Netflix. Some of them are good, some of them are not very good, but here they are. But if a movie is going to theaters, you feel like the studio are really behind it more. Do you have a sense of that
Mm,
that streamings
No,
are lesser films than theatrical?
That's actually what Aaron's asking us too. What do we think about same time streaming? Apparently, the last Halloween wasn't great. Does it make you worried about that this one isn't great as well? And then he follows it up with, is streaming looked at as a lesser product? Just curious how
Exactly.
many wish I saw that are on streaming. So I don't think straight to streaming is the straight to VHS that we used to hear.
Right.
Like, oh, this is getting a sequel straight to VHS. I don't think it's like that anymore. I think there's quality films being made by more people now, and that's why it's not the same ball game anymore. Because now anybody could make a film. There's crowdfunding. There's different avenues to get the film made. There's also a lot more independent films being made now than there were, just because you can do it now, or a lot of people could. Even these studios are taking risks on these smaller films because they could just throw some money on it, some money at it, throw it at a streamer. If they buy it, they buy it. If people stream it, it gets them some royalties. Why not? So no, I don't think it's a lesser product. I don't see it that way. I think that it's just more product, and in some cases, more is not the answer, and that could be an issue later on.
For sure.
Zeddy says Top Gun Maverick would have got buried on streaming. I feel theatricals all depend on the release date. I agree with that too. Grabs mentioned Wonder Woman 84 as one of the screw ups of WB, I believe, and I don't know. That's 50-50 on that one. Godzilla versus Kong at home made my year. I didn't like that one.
Well, again, I liked Mortal Kombat. I liked Godzilla versus Kong, but I feel like when they were coming out on the streaming services, they weren't these big, widely praised movies from the critics. I don't think so. That's what I got to feel like. Okay, they canceled this entire year of theatrical and put movies on their streaming services, but if they were in theatrical, I don't think they would have been their big box office wins. That I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know either. I think some of them may have been, but there's no telling, unfortunately. I don't know though. I think Godzilla versus Kong would have been huge. Mortal Kombat maybe not. Zeddy says Oscar films may benefit more from day and date because they represent a smaller sect of film fans and don't populate a lot of ticket sales that a blockbuster film does. That's true too. I feel like the Oscar films are probably better suited for streaming just because they're going to get in front of the people who actually are gunning for those movies. But at the same time, you can't, or I feel like there's nothing better than the theater experience as long as it's not a horror movie.
I like that there's options.
Yes.
I'm okay with however anybody wants to watch a movie, but I like that I can not go to a movie theater now. I don't have to drive to one. I can just sit on my couch and watch things. So
it's comfortable.
Yeah, and I loved when AT&T decided, okay, no theatrical, let's release everything on streaming. So I love that. If that was the only option, I would just like we're talking about with the streaming services, I would pay more to watch a movie at home than go and pay whatever a movie price is at a movie theater. So, but if people want to go, Zeddy, he'll go by himself on the weekend and see 2 movies in a row. I love it. More power to him. If he wants to do that. Exactly. I used to do that. I'm an old bastard now. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but it's just something about it. I want there to be options. I like that there's options. I like that there's different ways of viewing movies because enjoyment can vary. Like you said, you don't enjoy horror movies. Some people do enjoy the experience of people talking and yelling and screaming. There's different ways for people to enjoy movies now, and I think that's why it's a win on whichever side you want to go to.
Phil agrees with you. Same, but it's great to have the option, and I think so too. It is.
Phil's
nice
a great goddamn guy. So
I've never done that, and I'm an old bastard too.
Well, I agree with you there, Grabs.
That's funny. Did any of you watch Avatar? Hey, Matthew. Did any of you watch Avatar 3D in theaters? Yes, I did.
Sure did.
Avatar in 3D. I don't know if you give this, but I think it's the best 3D experience I've ever had.
It is.
It's awesome.
I watched Alice in Wonderland in 3D. I saw the Lego Batman movie in 3D. I saw Up in 3D. That's all I can remember. What else did you see in 3D?
I saw Captain America: First Avenger in 3D. Didn't like it. Well, I didn't like 3D. I saw one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies in 3D. I think I saw Thor, one of them, in 3D. I've seen some 3D movies. I generally don't like 3D though. It gives me a headache.
Yep. Yeah. Again, if I have the option between non-3D and 3D, I'll take the non-3D every day of the week.
Yeah, I might even skip the movie if I can't see it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If there, I've done that in the past. If
Yeah.
there's only a 3D option, I will wait for it
Yeah.
to be. I'll wait a week or 2 weeks for it not to be, or used to be, anyways.
Yeah, it won't hurt me. Are you guys aware that they're releasing Titanic in 3? I don't think I want to see that in 3D.
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The visuals don't add much to that movie for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to see the ship going down in 3D.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
It's going down again. All right, guys, that's our thoughts on streaming. It's kind of an overarching up and down way of viewing movies, but I think we've kind of set on there's no right or wrong way to do it. And Chris said it. It's streaming is not going away. This is the age of streaming. Aaron, I'm sorry. I hope lots of people go to your movie theater to watch your movies.
Grab said it's like he's drawing the woman in front of you.
I hear the nipples really pop off the screen. Yes, he is.
Anyway.
All right, Chris, that's enough of us. What do you got going on? Hit us up with some plugs otherwise.
You guys can, I think that's a technical foul. You guys can follow me on Twitter at thatchris70, but as usual, I prefer you guys follow the show at G of the Geeks. And Emmet is better with all the fancy YouTube plugs and the podcast and interviews and things.
You can follow me on Twitter at EmmettDavis7. But like Chris said, we got a bunch of stuff going on this week. We are going to have Elves, Hobbits, and Potatoes on your podcast feeds on Tuesday. But then we will have our first episode of Interview with the Geeks, where me, Chris, and Cookie will be covering the first 2 episodes of Interview with a Vampire. That will be coming to you on Thursday in your podcast feed. So guys, please, if you're not following our show, make sure you do. Follow us on Twitter or anywhere you get your podcast. Just search Gathering of the Geeks and you will find us. I want to say thank you to Eric, Zeddy, Cookie, Grabs, DC Patrol, Travis Hines. Lauren was in for a minute or two. Aaron, thanks so much for watching in tomorrow. Phil Walsh, thanks so much as always, and we'll probably catch you guys. And Matthew Anderson came in to talk about James Cameron's Avatar and Titanic. And saying all that, for Chris and I'm Emmet, and we gather on Sundays.
Have a good one.